with us, we have Felicia Moore, who is the owner of Neighborhood Home Care in Lynn. With over 25 years of experience in nursing, Felicia has shown immense dedication in working with those who are underserved. We are very excited to share with you her experience of working in home care as a person of color. So,
Mhm.
thank you, Felicia, so much for being here today.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
So, our first question, just to get us started, what drew you to home care?
hmm you know what? I I do not have like a specialty or a favorite. Actually, I always wanted to do pretty much psychiatric nursing, right? Psychiatric nursing, and and because I like to challenge myself quite a bit, so therefore I get bored very easily. But I did not wake up and say, "Oh, I want to be in home care." I did not. I grew up in Mississippi, and I moved to Lynn after living in Dorchester for a few years. So home care requires driving, and I used to get lost a lot. And the first town they sent me to was Revere. They have I mean, I can't tell you how many one-way streets in Revere. So I probably was the only nurse that was backing up like for 8 hours out of the day trying to get to that home. But I can't say I have one particular story that inspired me to do home care. I can only say that seeing underserved areas is what really motivated me the most.
Absolutely. I understand completely.
Mhm.
Our second question, is there a patient story that has stayed with you?
Oh boy. Oh my gosh. I can tell you, I can honestly say I am almost touched by every person or patient that I visit. Um, I have one that has humor to it. I had this diabetic patient. He has since expired, but he would always hide his Oreo cookies from me. And because as they get elderly, they decompromise. You know, they go downhill. They get compromised a little bit. So one day I went on a visit, and he had been boiling water, and he had one of these old-fashioned stoves because he used to own a thrift store. But this particular stove would get so hot it actually melted the bottom of the metal pot. And
Wow.
that particular day, because he always knew I'm looking around, home care nurses, we have our antennas up all the time because we want to make sure of safety in our environment. So that day I went looking, as usual, just looking around, and I found that pot in the trash can that he tried to hide from me. And he said, Felicia, I intentionally put it there because I know you always looking. But I used to this day, I still use that particular pot that he boiled water in to use as training for home care safety with the nurses as well as the home health aide. Which goes to show you that elderly people, they are vulnerable. They on a lot of medications. They get confused. They forgetful. They may just fall asleep. But that pot with that entire bottom out of it just melted away. I used that as part of my training to teach the nurses, all the clinical staff regarding home care safety. That sticks with me to this day.
Wow, that's actually very beautiful. I love that you still have the pot and it
Yeah, I
gives you
do.
that
I do.
connection to your patients as well. So
Mhm.
that's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes.
My third question is, what differentiates your agency in the marketplace?
You know, I like, home care can be a very, I liked it because we provide very similar services. I think what really touches me the most, or what the information that's brought back to me, is that neighborhood, we handle or we receive the referrals of the clients where some people may not want. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's not easy for me to be politically correct. So we generally would get the most compromised patients that other agency may not want, or the patients that another agency may not feel as safe going into a certain area after 5 o'clock. So I have been very personally, I've been very grateful to know that I can kind of shift um, in all the communities. It doesn't matter if it's a minority community or a well-off community, I neighborhood, and I, as a personal nurse that's been giving care, I've been very blessed to be able to kind of shift in whatever area that I need to make sure that that person or that family feel comfortable. So I think standing out the most is that if you have, for example, a psychiatric patient living in a minority community, not every agency is going to want that patient, right? And it's okay. It's okay. But at the same time, those areas deserve just as much as attention um, as any other area. And I think what I was thinking about this morning, I had a conversation with one of the deans at a community college that I was attending. And I always shared that, it concerned me that uh, minority students were not um, making the grade. So, for example, if they signed up for nursing or physical therapy, they were the population that was less likely to succeed. So how are we going to take care of those communities if those people living in those communities cannot even get the education that they need, that they require to be successful? COVID is a good example of that. You only got so many people that you can put out there. And if minority people if we are the population that are not getting into the physical therapy program, they not getting into the physical therapy assistant program, not getting into the nursing program, or if we are getting into it, we are, we may not pass the third or second semester. Who are there to take care of those communities? So I always say, and I presented at that meeting, that if you know that that is a deficit at your institution, create some kind of program for those students who would like to become nurses, doctors, or whatever in that medical field, and give them some kind of in service in the beginning before allowing them to go into that program and fail. All right. So that's where my heart is, and that still touches me to this day. Like I said, we take on some of the most challenging clients in the most challenging communities, but there are very few of us that can go into those communities or feel comfortable going into those communities.
Absolutely, I agree with you completely. I think it's very important as myself being a person of color as well. I went to UMass Dartmouth, and one thing that we focused on was as a person of color, having other people who are people of color in these roles of healthcare. It's very important where even in connecting to our doctors or our clinicians and being
Yes.
able to have someone who looks just like us, it's
Mhm.
very important because we're able to know that this person understands where I'm coming from. They understand me as a person. So everything you just said, I think, is very important. And I think it's very important that we do get more people of color in healthcare and home care specifically. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome.
And so for my final question, I know you spoke about it a couple times in some of your questions, but how do your interactions with clients and patients reflect your mission?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Uh, my interaction, I actually had a conversation with a patient a couple weeks ago, and she said, "Felicia, are you always excited like this?" I am excited about every patient that I come in contact with, and I think it's a gift. So even if I try not to, the cliche, do not judge a book by its cover, because you don't know that person's story. And so many times I've walked into the home, and this patient is old, frail, maybe dealing with psychiatric issues right now. But you know what? Lo and behold, when that person was younger, he was a pilot, she was a lawyer, and all of those things that inspire me. So I have learned, oh my, I have learned that when I walk into that home, I really do try to walk in without having any form of judgment, because the same person that I'm looking at, that looking like they're frail and confused, or whatever the case may be, that person had a story. And each time that I go in and say, oh, you know what, maybe this, no, I learned not to do that. So I interact with them as if they are human. I don't care what their financial status is. I interact with them as if they are a human being, and that is what makes me. I think it makes me earn the trust, and that's what you need in home care. You have to earn the trust of the people in their home, and we are a guest in their home, and it doesn't matter if I'm serving the town of Marblehead or if I'm serving the town of Dorchester. Everybody, when I walk in, I am the same person. I am.
Thank you so much. I absolutely agree with you. You know, the whole trust factor
Yes.
and being able to be versatile and work in any type of community, I think that's also very important that you touched upon earlier. And I think everything you're doing is just it's so beautiful.
Oh, honey, I thank you. I thank you so much. And like I said, we all have a story. I did not get here by myself, and I don't take that lightly. There's a lot of people that paved the way, both African American, Caucasian, you named it. So, there's someone from every race that contributed to lift us if you allow them to lift you. If you allow someone to suppress you, they would do that too. But I don't take that as my option, and I never will. So if I come from parents, my father did not know how to read or write. My mom, she said she finished high school, but she went into labor as she was walking down the aisle with me. I don't know if that's true. I think she was just telling me to stop asking so many questions. It could be some truth to it. She's no longer here, so I can't find out if she's joking with me or not. But Michelle, what I would like to leave with you, I have, I think, about 4 college degrees, and that is important. But I can have all the degrees in the world, but if I don't set that standard and expectation, for myself, then we will forever be suppressed or in that bubble where people defined us, and that is something that I'm not willing to let anyone do for me. I can do that all by myself. Sometimes I can do a good job, sometimes I don't do not so good of a job, but either way it's okay. I will be doing the defining.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy we got to speak today. And wow, 4 degrees.
Yeah, I
That's
do. I
very
do. I
impressive.
do. And it's good. And I think what keep me going is some things like Black History Month. Somebody had to pave the way for us, and we have to respect that.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important when you share your story with us as well, because it's not just with me, but also our members and anybody else who comes across this interview, even people who look like us, just knowing she she accomplished all of this
Yes,
and
yes.
I can too. And I think it's just very important for everyone to be able to see this,
Absolutely.
so
My goal, if I don't do anything else, I hope I inspire, and I don't. It doesn't matter what nationality a person is, because we all bleed the same. I am a true believer of that. If I can just inspire people, and to give them the motivation to stay focused and to not give up, uh, I've done what I've came here to do, on this greatly earthly plane, just to inspire. That's all. That's all I want to do, and I can sleep good at night.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Felicia. It's been such a beautiful time just sharing all of this with you.
Mhm.
And once again, I'm thank you for everything that you do for our community,
You're very
not
welcome.
just my community, but home care and health care and making people educating all of your clients and making
Oh,
sure they're getting the care that they need and that they're aware of everything that they need to be so that they could get the quality of care. I really appreciate you. Thank you
oh,
so much.
well, thank you for having me, honey. I appreciate that.